GLP-1s. You've heard of that. And it's exploding across the globe and with some major impacts. These things really work. But of course, that comes with controversy as well, and quite often, shaming. And we're going to dive into that today as we talk on The Current Temp. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to my guest, Dr. Terry Nell Beaver, a fan favorite, here again to talk about GLP-1s. Before we do that, let me thank Lexus of Memphis, of course. Phenomenal people and product. You hear me say this week after week, and it doesn't change because they don't change. They're that consistent. I'm just in love with the men and women at that store. They are the kindest people, very helpful, and of course, an amazing product. Go by there and tell them hello. We're going to jump right into it. This is going to be a fast-paced follow-up to our discussion on GLP-1s about a week or so ago. Terry, now we talk about weight loss, we talk about health, and we're often dealing, I think, with personal accountability. And you and I were talking the last time we discussed this about how there's also stewardship that's a part in this. But we have a difficult culture around us right now, particularly in social media, and people get very animated and opinionated when it comes to things like weight loss. So let's dive right in. I know that you are smart enough to not cover yourself in social media. I'm a big fan of that, by the way. But let's talk about GLP-1s and the fact that we talked last time about how it affects your food noise. It is you had changed your stance on it. What would you say out of the gates about people who shame people that are taking GLP-1s?
I think that's terrible. You shouldn't shame somebody. You don't walk in their shoes, especially if they're trying to help themselves. If they have a medical issue that you're not aware of, to shame them over that is just terrible.
Well, as I was doing this research, one of the things I was looking into is we take medicine for heart problems.
Yes.
We take medicine to treat things like depression. Why? I can't figure out why our culture, our society is so animated and has so much vitriol whenever somebody now starts losing weight. It's like they immediately want to condemn them. And so I think it comes down to judgment about willpower. And there's a big divide here when it comes to shaming and judgment when it comes to weight.
It's hard for me to understand that.
But do you agree that that's true?
I do agree that that's true. I think it's terribly unfortunate. Why would you shame somebody for wanting to take better care of their health? Like I said, they might have issues that you're not aware of. And there's emerging information about GLP-1s that have beneficial effects on heart disease. Not just the obesity, but other issues, heart disease, sleep apnea, cholesterol, blood pressure, many issues. For somebody that's trying to be a steward of their health, to have to face shaming from other people, it's just way too much.
Well, and I'm that's where I'm conflicted here. I try to be positive on this podcast, but it's all over social media, and I keep saying social media, and I'm like you. I wish I did not have to be as much into it. Mm-hmm. However, part of my job now in the investment world, you have to stay up with information.
Right.
You have to stay informed all the time. We don't get newspapers anymore, and so I'm ingesting a lot of information all the time, constantly. If someone comes across the feed who's a celebrity who looks 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds underweight, there's an immediate, overwhelming attack. This person's on GLP-1s, and they immediately have to defend themselves and whether they're telling the truth or not and go, I'm not on GLP-1s. I don't understand that mentality, and I should have prepped you better. I didn't even give you a heads up that I was going to maybe cover some of this. Does that make any sense to you, why that is?
No, you should not comment on somebody's weight unless you're their physician.
Well, right. And the only thing that makes even rational sense to me is that maybe people like to attack others to make themselves feel better.
Yes.
Maybe.
Yes.
I can't. I'm trying to rationalize in my head why there's so much anger towards people who want to get healthier.
I have no idea. I guess, like you said, they have some deficit of their own that they're trying to cover up by criticizing someone else, or a way that would make them feel superior. Maybe they would say, well, I don't take GLP-1s and I go to the gym 5 days a week. And look at you're taking the easy way out with the GLP-1s and you're not going to the gym. Well, you don't really know anything about the other person or what they're doing or not doing. And for you to compare yourself to someone else in that arena is very troublesome.
This is where I think it gets ugly. As I was working through this process and why people are so animated on this topic, I think people immediately say, you should have more willpower. You should have more willpower. You should have more willpower. Because we are very judgmental as a culture, and we often judge people by their physical appearance, which is leading me to the next, really the major point here is, I think part of the issue here, what's intertwined, is our obsession with, you may have heard this term, looks maxing. Have you heard of the term looks maxing? If you're off social media, you might not, but let me tell you what it is, and it's extremely viral. It's men and women, and men too, who are forging entire identities online, trying to promote how perfect they are in every aspect, whether it's their hair, cheekbones, cleft in the chin, no body fat under the chin, an obsession with perfect physical attributes. And of course, the followers on TikTok or whatever are harming themselves in many cases, trying to meet this new criteria for perfection and what makes you acceptable. I just see us going into this bad spiral where we're worshiping our physicality, but at the same time judging someone who's trying to be, more healthy. And listen, when you look in the mirror, everybody wants to feel good about themselves, but it's not as easy as just will. I guess what I'm saying is, as a physician, let's talk about that for a minute. Willpower versus the need for assistance.
Well, as we mentioned before, these medicines work because of their effect on the brain and their effect on the metabolism. So you can't will your metabolism to change. Once you carry excess weight, there's a quantitative and qualitative change in your metabolism, and it becomes dysregulated. And these medications work to help re-regulate those. And so it's a re-regulation of something that's gone awry. And there's no willpower involved in that equation whatsoever. Now, that's different from somebody who might want to lose 5 or 10 pounds. Maybe their lifestyle is crept downward and they need to clean up their diet or their exercise regimen. But that's very different from somebody that has health consequences due to excess weight. And it's not one size fits all. I think people have gone into idolatry over appearances and celebrities and taking what somebody says on social media to heart. And I wish that they would look at things a little differently as far as stewardship of your health. And let's try to take what God has made and make the most of it.
Let's explore that, because I love that word. We talked about it last time. What do you think? How would you define good stewardship in this arena?
I think a good stewardship would be to maximize your cardiac health, whatever road that takes you down. You need to have control of your blood pressure, control of your cholesterol. You need to have a heart-healthy diet. You need to have a regular exercise routine that's not extreme. You need to have a way to manage stress. You need to have adequate sleep. You need to generally take good care of yourself. That's what being a good steward is taking care of the gifts that you have been given. And that's way different from idolatry. Idolatry would be taking some sort of false image and saying that God made a mistake making me how I am, so I need to look and act this way instead of what's best for me.
Right. We kind of talked about this last time, and I'd love for you to kind of refresh. You said when you started doing the research and you took some classes and education on this prior to us talking, you changed your opinion. Tell me what your opinion was and what changed your mind?
Well, my training was in the 80s, and our training was eat less and exercise more, and that was it.
Yeah.
But the drugs, the way they work and the results that they have gotten, and as we said before, in a way, the weight loss was an accident. These drugs were developed to treat diabetes, and they just noticed that the people taking them were losing all this weight. And so that's what made them branch off into that aspect of the medications. And so if it was all willpower, the medicines wouldn't work.
Right.
It's not a medicine to increase your willpower.
Right. Well, that's right. It's not a willpower medicine.
That's right.
And one of the things you said that was so fascinating is how it reduces food noise, helps your brain sort of rewire a little bit on what you call it,
the reward system.
The reward system and the reward center in the brain.
Right.
And so we're kind of covering several topics here, but I think they're all critical. We have an obesity problem. We know that.
Yes.
These GLP-1s, they work, and they're actually, I've been doing more research, there are more versions on the way.
Yes.
Newer and better versions, not just the injectables, but oral pills. New phase 3 trials are happening right now.
Yes.
More companies are getting into the mix because they're seeing this fervor for it, because people are realizing, and it's impacting restaurants. Restaurants are now changing, they're having to reshift their paradigm because people are either not ordering as much junk, or they're changing how much they're ingesting. I see a lot of wins from this. Now that I've said that, here's the balance. The balance is self-worth doesn't rise and fall with the numbers on a scale.
Yes, that's correct.
And I think that's a critical point for us to emphasize, to your point earlier, is that God made us a certain way. Mm-hmm. We do need to be good stewards, but we need to continue to remind everybody beauty is not your self-worth.
That's right.
That's the message the world is telling everybody.
That's right.
If you had to give an encouragement to people listening that reinforces that beauty is not their self-worth, how would you put that? What would you say?
God made you unique a certain way. You're not like everybody else. You're different. There are certain principles that apply to everybody to being a good steward, the ones we just listed. But as far as how you look, that's not the goal here. The goal is not to look like everybody else. The goal is to look like your best healthy self.
Your best you.
That's right.
It's fascinating because I can remember when you're a kid, you want to fit in with everybody.
Yes.
You want to be just like everybody else. As you get older, let's say when you start exiting high school into college, you start to realize that's not good. You want to be unique.
Yes.
You want to be different and be your own creative person, like you said, to let your own gifts shine. Mm-hmm. So, we're about to wrap up here. I think one of the critical takeaways is that I think we agree GLP-1s are good. Mm-hmm. I think we also agree that we need to be careful with compounded versions.
Yes.
Right? And tell people why that is.
Well, because they're not regulated. You can put B12 molecule on the molecule of the GLP-1 and say it's different, and you don't really know how down the road it's going to be different. And as we said last time, these medicines should be looked at as very long-term.
Right.
You don't start and stop. Say, for example, if you want to lose 5 pounds, you don't take a GLP-1 for a month and stop, then gain the 5 pounds back, restart the GLP-1, lose the 5 pounds.
You had an analogy about heart medicine that you
Oh,
that I
like
thought
the
was
blood
great.
pressure.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you have high blood pressure, you go in, you noted that your blood pressure is too high, you start taking blood pressure medicine. Well, then you go in several times and your blood pressure is normal. You think, I don't need this blood pressure medicine anymore. You stop taking it, and guess what? Your blood pressure goes right back up.
Right. So it's a long-term approach.
It's a long-term approach, and it's for health, not for vanity.
Right.
And it's again, I think it's something that it started out for good, but people have turned it for bad.
Well, and you and I had a good discussion. I wouldn't even call it a disagreement. We were talking about the vanity side of it. I believe in people wanting to feel good about themselves. I think the dangerous divide, as I've thought about it, is how our culture has put so much emphasis on Botox and liposuction and facelifts and dyeing your hair and all these things to try to fit a mold. And I don't believe in that. You know, I clearly, in fact, I got my hair cut today, and I said to the lady, as the hair is falling on the black cape, I go, whose hair is this? Because it doesn't look that gray to me until it falls on this black cape. And she was like, no, that's your hair. And I'm not against someone who wants to color their hair, and I'm talking more men here. That's completely their decision. But there's got to be a healthy balance,
yes.
right? And I think you were really alluding to that, about everything being in moderation and in a healthy balance. You know, would you like any closing thoughts on that?
Yes. I think instead of putting your focus on external beauty and looking like an image on social media that might even be generated by AI,
right.
It might not even be an
actual real thing.
Actual person.
Right.
It's a computer generated image.
Right.
That I think that puts a lot of pressure on yourself and makes you do things that are unhealthy. You know, I think we might see eating disorders come back with a vengeance. I did some more reading, and one problem with long-term GLP-1s, people are not eating, and so they're getting into terrible vitamin deficiencies. And that's having a terrible effect on their health. Yes, they get the benefit from the weight loss, but now they have a whole new set of problems.
Right.
They're deficient in vitamins and essential minerals that they were not deficient in previously. Also, if you think about it, if you take the GLP-1s but you don't make healthy changes such as eating a better diet and getting some exercise, then your vitamin deficiencies are going to be even more obvious because you're just eating less of junk food.
Right. No, that's true.
And so instead of eating healthy food where you could get some nutritional value, you're still eating junk food, just less of it.
I've actually heard of that.
And that's a terrible plan.
Yeah, that's not being your best steward, is it?
No.
All right, friends, listen, just like with AI, we are on the cutting edge of what GLP-1s are going to do across the planet. I mean, because very soon, as patents expire, and this just happened in India, the patents expired, the prices dropped, and now there's obesity on every continent. And so the use of these products is exploding as the prices are coming down. As more hit the market, it's going to become even more widespread. We're at the very early stages of what's going to be a major sea change. And I think just due this conversation, we're going to be dealing with side effect issues as well. I don't see how we're not. I don't see how we're going to avoid them.
Well, and I'm also very concerned about teenagers getting into these GLP-1s.
Yeah.
You know, before their systems have matured. We don't really know what they're going to do to a system that's not fully mature.
Right.
And with the becoming more widespread use, they're going to be getting into the hands of teenagers who are predisposed to, you know, they want to look like a celebrity or be like a celebrity or have a lifestyle of a celebrity. And that's such a terrible path to go down for many reasons.
I've got one heartbreaking story I'm going to share, and then we'll wrap this up. And this is almost 20 years ago, pre-social media. I was at Oak Court Mall on my dinner break. This is when I was on air. And I just went into the food court. I thought I'll grab something fast at the food court and I'll go back to work. There was a young lady at a table. She looked like she was in high school, extremely thin, but she looked like she was a high school junior, senior, I don't know. But I noted, and like I said, very thin. But she had a piece of pizza, and before she would eat it, she had a pile of napkins. And she was obsessively blotting as much grease as she could, not just like, oh, no, I'm just going to get some grease. I didn't want to watch her, but my heart was breaking because I could tell she wanted the pizza, but she had to attack it to the point where it was almost like unrecognizable. And I could tell in her machinations, she had been programmed, I want this pizza, but it's bad for me, and so I've got to do all these things to it. I'm afraid for our young people.
Yes.
Because we're in a trampoline effect now because of social media where they think they have to look and be a certain way.
Yes. And, the stuff on social media is not real.
Not at all. Let me add this, not to cut you off, but when you said that the first time, what do we do when we take a picture? We hold the camera up here. Everybody holds it up here so that it looks like my face is thinner, I'm more attractive. Nobody takes a down shot, like this. We're manipulating photos like mad until it's almost not reality. We're not even in the moment anymore.
Right. And I think it makes people obsessed with themselves. And that's a recipe for disaster.
Well, now we're back to false idols.
That's right.
Anyway,
that's our idol of self.
Right. A closing thought. You take it. Give us a closing thought about all this.
I think there's a place for GLP-1s, I think, as far as health goes, but there's also a big danger for misuse and vanity and becoming obsessed with things that are not healthy, and that we need to put our focus back on what's really important.
And being happy with ourselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And being stewards.
Happy with how God made you.
That's right.
And using your energy to be a good steward of that, and not trying to become something that you're not, or something that you're never created to be, or something that's not even real.
Right. No, I think those are great words. And so we're going to end with less judgment, maybe more compassion.
Yes.
And let's encourage each other as we're just moving forward, because we are supposed to be stewards of our bodies, but also stewards for each other.
That's right. If you can take your focus off yourself long enough to have compassion for someone else,
right,
maybe you'll be less likely to judge them.
And I mean, listen, for anybody, if you've ever been in that trap, once you try to take the focus off yourself, it's almost liberating.
Yes.
To stop worrying about yourself all the time.
Yes.
Anyway, great words from Dr. Terry Nell Beaver. Thank you for being here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Another excellent conversation. Thank you to my beautiful wife who's pushing the buttons and making it all happen over there. And friends, thank you to you for watching and sending us your thoughts and comments, for commenting on the different platforms. We love that. You do it like crazy, and we love it to hear what you think. Email us your thoughts. Or if you have an idea for a show or know someone who would make an interesting guest, you can reach us at thecurrenttemp@gmail.com. It's Dr. Terry Nell Beaver. And for me, we hope you have a great week.